Hey, so I've been gaming since the mid-80s, and I can say with certainty that the Super NES is the best retro console. Let's find out why. It's difficult to compare retro consoles to modern consoles because they're two different time eras. The games are completely different today. So I'm thinking about game consoles that are before the year 2010. And yes, I'm talking about the PS2 also. I know the PS2 sold boatloads of consoles, but a lot of people bought that console because they had a DVD player. That's why I originally bought that console, because at the time, DVD players were just as expensive as a new PS2, and the PS2 had a great DVD player in it. Some people will say that the original PlayStation was a better console than the Super Nintendo. It might have been at the time, but looking back now, it's not, because those games did not hold up well. They did not age like fine wine like the Super Nintendo games did. The Super Nintendo games today look just as good as they did back then. When you try to play a PlayStation game now, it's not that good because you're playing 3D games when 3D was a brand new technology. When you're playing Super Nintendo, you're playing the best 2D games that exist because the developers had perfected that technology to the point where it couldn't even be any better than it really was. Some people will say, well, Matt, what about the Genesis? Genesis does what Nintendo don't. Man, the Genesis gave the Super NES a good run for its money, but when you compare the Genesis games to the Super Nintendo games, Super Nintendo wins. And there's only a couple different genres where Genesis had the better games. And to prove it, I'll just look at worldwide sales of the two different consoles. Super Nintendo beat the Genesis in worldwide sales. And the Super Nintendo, it was basically a Nintendo, but it was upgraded in every way. It was based on the principles of the NES, and they updated everything. Faster processor, better controller with a lot more buttons, more memory, etc., etc. It's a Super NES. It's a Super Nintendo, and it is super. But what good is a console without the games? Let's talk about these Super NES games, the thing that made this console so great. First, let's talk about what launched with the console. There's Super Mario World, one of the best 2D platformers of all time. F-Zero, a really fun racing game, Pilot Wings, an excellent flying simulator, as well as the shooter Gradius 3 and the simulation game SimCity. What a lineup! It has something for everyone. Now let's discuss some of the first party titles that the Super NES had. There's The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, right? I mean, that's just an awesome action RPG, one of the best in that series, one of the best series of all time. There's Super Metroid, a follow-up to the original Metroid. It's an awesome game. Donkey Kong Country is so much fun. They made 3 of them, and they're all incredible. There's Yoshi's Island, the follow-up to Super Mario World, Kirby Superstar, Star Fox, Super Mario RPG, there's Earthbound, and then there's Super Mario All-Stars. This is a compilation of games. It gives us 3 of the top 10 games on the NES with updated 16-bit graphics. Of course, those games are Super Mario 1, 2, and 3. Then there's a list of third-party titles. Chrono Trigger, Street Fighter 2, all the different versions, Super Castlevania, Turtles in Time, Contra 3, Mega Man X, all the Mortal Kombats, And there's a whole bunch of games that I didn't even mention. Then there's the add-ons to the system, like the Super Game Boy. There's over 1,000 Game Boy games, and a lot of them are fun. Now you can play them all on your Super NES? That's incredible. A few of the great Super NES games used Mode 7 graphics, which gave us an early taste of what 3D games would look like. Games like Star Fox and F-Zero. And I know some of these early 3D games like Star Fox haven't aged that well, but it was really incredible to see that back during the Super NES era. The Super NES, it features games with a timeless look, and it's what makes it one of the most popular consoles among retro gamers. And it's these reasons that I think that the Super NES is the best retro game console of all time. What do you guys think? Do you agree with me? Yes, no, maybe? Let me know in the comments below. Please subscribe. Thanks for watching, and have a good day.